I should have known the night was doomed the moment my wife, Melissa, started complimenting her reflection like it was her date. She wore a black cocktail dress, diamond earrings, and a look that said this gala mattered more than anything I could say. "Try to blend in tonight, Aaron," she told me, still talking to the mirror. I adjusted my tie and joked about practicing invisibility. She didn't laugh. Melissa is a senior researcher at Pharmac Solutions. Every year, they host a big gala where science talk is the excuse and networking is the point. My role, according to her, was supportive husband. I own a logistics optimization firm, 15 employees, solid clients, mostly in pharma distribution. But when we walked into the hotel ballroom glittering with chandeliers and hard smiles, I might as well have been her handbag. She switched on her corporate voice and worked the room like she was running for office. Introductions went the same way each time. "This is my husband, Aaron. He does something with logistics." A vague hand wave, a quick pivot back to whomever she needed to impress, and I was left smiling at someone's shoulder. When Dr. Perez mentioned they were losing temperature-sensitive shipments in a new rollout, my ears perked up. "It's literally what I do." I opened my mouth. "Actually, that's my area." Melissa's hand tightened on my arm. "Be a dear and grab me a Chardonnay?" She pressed her half-full glass into my hand like I was staff. I took it to the bar. The bartender, a kid with a man bun, poured a generous refill and said, "Rough night?" I said I was interning in humiliation studies. He laughed, handed me the drink, and I carried it back like a good butler. Melissa took it without looking up. I hovered, then drifted off to the perimeter where the waitstaff kept giving me pitying eyes. Round 2. Perez again, this time with his wife, Linda. They were talking last-mile cold chain failures. I tried again. "We've built an IoT system that—" Melissa cut me off with a chirped, "Another Chardonnay?" I stared at her still-cold glass, took it anyway, and walked back to the bar. The kid grimaced. "Back already?" I said I was building character or having a breakdown, could go either way. I returned, handed over the drink, and went silent. Linda caught my eye and mouthed, "Sorry." It hit harder than I expected. Strangers recognizing you're being treated like furniture. That's when the room shifted. Dr. Victoria Lane, VP of Operations, arrived. Compact, calm, sharp. Melissa stood straighter, smoothed her dress, pasted on her most professional smile. When Victoria reached us, she shook Melissa's hand, then looked at me. Actually looked at me. "You must be Aaron. Melissa mentioned you run a logistics firm for pharmaceuticals." Melissa mentioned me? That was news. I nodded and gave her my quick line about keeping expensive drugs from becoming expensive puddles. She laughed, real laughter. Then she asked about predictive routing, sensor redundancy, FDA compliance. She listened, asked smart questions. Melissa's smile went thin and brittle while we talked. After an hour of the ballroom, I escaped to the rooftop terrace to breathe. Cool air, city lights, silence. A voice behind me. "Rough night?" It was Victoria, minus the blazer, holding 2 glasses of red. She handed me one. "Not broken," she said, "just unappreciated. There's a difference. We watched the city." She said she noticed Melissa bragged about colleagues' spouses, but never about me until she'd asked. I told her logistics isn't glamorous, and my wife liked glamorous. Victoria's expression hardened. "Competence is attractive. Intelligence is attractive. Anyone who can't see that is an idiot." She slipped me a card. "Call me if you want to work with people who value what you do. And if you ever want a conversation with a woman who appreciates what you bring to the table, I'm available for that too." Her hand rested on my shoulder. It wasn't flirty so much as deliberate, warm, seen. Heels clicked hard behind us. "Get your hands off my husband." Melissa's voice cracked across the terrace like a siren. Phones rose instantly. 6 co-workers recording. Victoria removed her hand, calm as a surgeon. "Melissa, we were discussing supply chain optimization. Join us? In the dark? On a rooftop? With your hand on him?" Melissa's anger was shaking the heat lamps. I tried a bad joke about shoulder-to-shoulder mentoring. Only the waiter in the doorway chuckled. "You're a predator," Melissa said louder. "A cougar preying on married men. This is harassment." Victoria gestured at the discreet black domes mounted around us. "There are 3 security cameras with audio up here. Please report this to HR. The footage will show exactly what happened." She turned, handed me another card. "Aaron, I meant what I said." "Let's talk," she said and walked out. On her way, she asked the waiter to ensure security pulled the clips. The terrace went silent except for phones recording Melissa's face as it slid from rage to fear. "Aaron," she said, suddenly small. "I didn't mean—" "You never do," I said, pocketing the card. I walked past her and back downstairs. The drive home was an audio tour of damage control. Melissa called everyone, boss, peers, a college friend, each conversation ending with, "It's already online?" By the time we hit our driveway, there was a TikTok remix of her yelling, "Get your hands off my husband," and it already had tens of thousands of views. She begged me to plead her case to Victoria. Tell her I didn't mean it. I asked which part, accusing your boss of harassment in front of cameras? Calling her a predator? She said she was protecting our marriage. I said I'd spent the whole night being treated like an inconvenience to her image. 3 days later, Victoria's assistant emailed asking to meet. I didn't tell Melissa. At Pharmac headquarters, Victoria slid a folder across a table. A 3-year consulting contract to overhaul their distribution network. Cold chain integrity, predictive routing, real-time monitoring. I saw the numbers and had to check for extra zeros. "This can't be right. It's what your expertise is worth," she said. "We're losing 8 to 12 million a year to inefficiencies. Cut that in half and you pay for yourself 3 times over." I asked if it was some kind of revenge for the rooftop scene. She shook her head. "This is business. I reviewed your case studies, called your clients. You're good. The rooftop only confirmed what I already thought. You're composed under pressure and undervalued." I took the folder to my lawyer, then my accountant, then my partner, Derek. We signed soon after. Melissa was suspended pending investigation and then fired. Hostile work environment, insubordination, slander of a senior executive on camera. She landed a lesser job in Wisconsin and called it a strategic lateral move. We separated. I took an apartment that allowed dogs. We filed for divorce. Working with Victoria was the opposite of being invisible. My first meeting, she sat her team down, logistics, QA, IT, and told them to engage because I was there on merit. I presented the ugly truths. Temperature drift, bad routing, no live data, broken comms. They tested me. I had answers. By the end, we'd mapped an implementation plan. After, Victoria asked how I was holding up. I told her the professional part felt like oxygen. She touched my arm, brief, warm. "You're excellent," she said. "Not just professionally." 6 months later, the numbers spoke for me. Over $12 million saved, 0 spoiled shipments in the Midwest for 4 months, and 2 new contracts from companies who'd heard. My team doubled. We moved offices. I slept better. We also started seeing each other, carefully after setting clear boundaries. It wasn't a revenge romance. It was 2 adults who worked well together and liked each other when the laptops closed. We kept HR happy. No reporting lines, no special favors, ethics reviews on file. It still felt like walking a line, but it was a line worth walking. Pharmac's next gala felt like stepping into a new movie. People greeted me by name. James from Logistics asked about expanding to Europe. Patricia from QA introduced me to a counterpart from another company. During her speech, Victoria credited my firm by name for the savings. I turned hot with embarrassment. She smiled like she was proud. Later, she asked if I wanted air. We went back to that rooftop. The same city lights, different gravity. "A year ago, I watched a talented man treated like he was invisible," she said, loosening my tie with a grin that wasn't strictly HR approved. "Now I get to work with a partner who challenges me and doesn't see me as a threat or a trophy." She kissed me. It felt like closing one chapter and opening another. Exactly a year after the meltdown, we returned to announce a joint venture, Pharmac Plus, my firm building a distribution platform other companies could license. Investors, cameras, interviews. My accountant called 3 times to be sure the zeros were real. They were. During a break, my phone buzzed. A text from Melissa. "Saw the announcement. Congratulations. I hope you're happy." Victoria noticed the message. "You going to respond?" she asked. I looked at it for 3 seconds and deleted it. "No," I said. "Happiness doesn't need validation." She squeezed my hand and pulled me back toward the cameras. "People love neat morals, so here's mine. Being valued is addictive. Respect is oxygen. I thought I needed to be tolerated by the right circle to matter. Turns out I just needed the right rooms, the right work, and the right person. At my wife's company party, she mocked me. Her boss handed me a card and said, "Call me if you want a woman who values you." The look on my wife's face when she saw that hand on my shoulder? Unforgettable. But what mattered wasn't the shock. It was what came after. A job done well, a life rebuilt, and a partner who never once asked me to be invisible so she could shine. I don't miss my old role. I don't miss the polite nods or the way I learned to speak only when spoken for. I build systems that keep life-saving medicine alive from lab to patient. That work matters. I matter. And I'm not interested in being anyone's accessory ever again. Thanks for watching PLZ. Like and subscribe.